Have you ever had one of those sudden, cold sweat moments where you realize you are completely, utterly out of your depth? I am not talking about a minor social awkwardness, like accidentally ordering chicken feet at a local diner when you thought you ordered dim sum. I am talking about a moment where the stakes feel incredibly high. You are standing face to face with authority, and you have absolutely no words to bridge the gap.
I know exactly that feeling. It is the sudden realization that the invisible safety nets we rely on in our home countries simply do not exist when we cross borders. When you are abroad, the local administrative systems can feel like an impenetrable fortress, especially when you do not speak a word of the language. It turns a simple administrative chore into an existential crisis.
That is the perfect way to frame it. Today, we are diving into a classic lost in translation scenario that actually happened to an expat living in Vietnam. It is a story that begins with a routine evening and ends with a complete panic over something called temporary residence registration, or what the locals call tam true.
Ah, the infamous Tam True. Anyone who has lived in Vietnam for more than a week knows that term, or at least they should. It is essentially the legal system requiring foreigners to register their living address with the local ward police. It sounds simple on paper, but in practice, it is the source of endless expat anxiety.
An expat in Hanoi, enjoying life and teaching English, faces trouble when his landlord suddenly leaves the country and forgets to renew his temporary residence registration.
And that is where the clock starts ticking. In many countries, registration is treated as a passive background process. But in Vietnam, the law is quite clear. Either the landlord or the tenant must update the registration whenever there is a change in status, a visa renewal, or a move. If the landlord vanishes, the responsibility silently shifts to the tenant.
Our expat had no idea. One evening, while relaxing in shorts and a tank top, police knocked on his door for a routine check, asking for his passport and updated registration.
This is the ultimate test of administrative compliance. And let me guess, he did not have the document, and he certainly did not have the language skills to explain why.
His Vietnamese was limited to hello and thank you, while the officer spoke only basic English. This language gap caused confusion. The officer tried to explain the expired registration, while the expat feared deportation or jail.
It is a classic breakdown of communication. When we panic, our brains default to worst-case scenarios. We stop listening and start projecting our deepest fears onto the person in front of us. In this case, a routine administrative check suddenly looks like a dramatic raid.
It got worse. The expat said his landlord was in London, but the officer thought he meant he was flying there. They spent 5 minutes in confusing charades with no progress.
That is the danger of relying on partial comprehension. A single misheard word can completely redirect the narrative in the wrong direction. So, how did they break the deadlock?
Well, the officer realized they were going in circles. He did the most practical thing possible. He wrote down a date, a time, and the address of the local police station on a slip of paper, pointed down the street, and handed it over. The message was clear. Show up here tomorrow morning.
I can only imagine the kind of night he had after that.
Oh, he did not sleep a single wink. Instead, he did what almost every panicked traveler or expat does. He went online and started scrolling through expat forums and social media groups.
In a crisis, online forums only increase anxiety with extreme views. Some say ignore it, others warn of blacklisting and fines. There's little balanced or useful advice.
He was absolutely terrified by the time the sun came up. But luckily, daylight brought a moment of clarity. Instead of trying to handle it alone, he reached out to a local colleague from his school and practically begged her to go to the station with him.
That was the turning point. That is the single most important decision he made. If you are facing a legal or administrative issue in a country where you do not speak the language, going alone is a recipe for disaster. Having a local representative who understands both the linguistic nuances and the cultural expectations changes the entire dynamic of the room.
It changed everything instantly. The moment they arrived at the station, the local colleague was able to explain the situation calmly. She showed them his valid teaching contract, his legal visa, and explained that the lack of registration was a genuine mistake because the landlord had to leave the country unexpectedly.
And how did the officers react once they had the full story?
The officers were understanding and just wanted accurate records. They helped the expat register online on the spot. Relieved, he later bought water for them as a thank you.
This shows that bureaucracy is run by people, not machines. Their job is to maintain order and safety. If you stay cooperative and explain clearly, they are usually willing to help resolve the issue.
It really makes you think about how we view authority when we are in a foreign environment. We often carry a lot of subconscious bias or fear, which makes us defensive. But if we strip that away, we can see these interactions as opportunities for mutual respect.
Absolutely. This story actually provides a brilliant blueprint for anyone living or traveling abroad. There are a few key lessons we can extract from this experience to ensure we never find ourselves in that state of panic.
Let us break those down. What is the first major takeaway?
Always stay cooperative and respectful with authority figures. Avoid being defensive or raising your voice. A calm nod, polite smile, and open posture show cooperation, encouraging a problem-solving rather than punitive response.
That makes complete sense. And what about the language barrier itself? We cannot always have a local friend standing next to us at a moment's notice.
Technology helps here. Use instant translation apps on your phone to bridge language gaps, showing the officer you're trying to communicate and cooperate.
I would also add that being proactive about your own paperwork is crucial. You should never just assume that someone else has taken care of your legal status. When you rent a place or move to a new area, ask your landlord directly for proof of registration. Ask them to send you a PDF or a screenshot of the confirmation.
That is an excellent point. Having a digital copy of your registration, your passport, and your visa stored in a dedicated folder on your phone is a game changer. If anyone ever queries your status, you can present that folder in 30 seconds. It turns a potential half-hour ordeal into a quick, routine verification.
It really comes down to taking responsibility for your own presence in a host country. We are guests there, after all. Respecting their laws and administrative processes is a fundamental part of that relationship.
Having one or two trusted local contacts, or knowing your embassy's or HR's emergency number, is vital. If needed, politely ask the officer to make a quick call for translation. Most will appreciate it, as it helps them too.
This story really shows that while administrative hurdles can be intimidating, they do not have to be a nightmare. With a little preparation, the right attitude, and a bit of humility, you can navigate almost any bureaucratic challenge that comes your way.
It is all part of the adventure of living globally. These challenges shape us, teach us resilience, and ultimately, give us great stories to tell. It reminds us that despite our differences in language and culture, we are all just trying to navigate the systems we live in.
That is a perfect note to end on. It is about turning friction into connection. Thank you for sharing these insights today. To everyone listening, keep your documents updated, stay curious, and embrace the journey, bureaucracy, and all. We will see you in the next episode.
Take care, stay safe, and keep exploring the world with an open mind. Goodbye.